Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Thursday, and it's May 13th. This will be our chart lesson for today. This is going to wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Most of you know that now. Um, so we'll be back again to do it Monday. It'll be our next chart lesson, but no chart lessons on Friday. So I thought I would put up this daily chart. Some of you are probably saying, "What in the world is this?" But I thought I'd put this daily chart up first. This is our envelope indicator. It's a proprietary indicator, so I'll probably anytime I show it, I get 100 questions. Where do you find this? Where do you download it? Well, it comes as it's proprietary, so it comes with one of our manuals and with the instructions and the settings, but it's on our website. So um, if you're interested in that, it's the envelope strategy. So, but anyway, I just wanted to show this. You can see we've continued to move up, and generally when you get up near this purple line, you're in your oversold, especially when you push above it. And then when you get down below it on this side, you're in your you're overbought up here and then oversold down here. And let's back out here a little bit so we can see the most recent price action. And you can see that we were going sideways. We're in this channel. And notice we broke out the high side, failed, came down, broke out the low side, failed. Perfect price action, really. This was exactly what you expected when we broke out yesterday. We got into this oversold area down here, reversed. And even if we're not going higher, you would expect prices to come back and test this breakout. Just like right here, it breaks out. You expect it to, at a minimum, to come back and test the breakout area and probably come back down and test this area. And that's what it did that day. And then the next day it broke on lower, failed out the low side, and has come back, and we're testing it. So far it's closing underneath, so we could push down again. We had a big rally and then just kind of went sideways. But this is a retest of that breakout. Regardless of whether we're going higher or lower, this is what you would expect to happen. If it fails, we'll get back in the channel, maybe even go back out the other side again. We've been oversold, so it wouldn't surprise me if we rally a little bit now. We really cured that overbought condition in 1, 2, 3 days, basically. Of course, we went sideways for a little bit. We're back to the midline here, and you notice we tested it a couple of times and bounced off of it and went higher. That's when you got the failed breakout. So it's been perfect price action. But I thought I'd put this up so just to kind of give you an idea of what's going on lately. It's been mostly sideways with a failed breakout the high side and now a failed breakout the low side. Of course, we could continue to go lower, so it may not end up failing, but you would expect prices on a breakout to come back and retest that low, even if we're going lower. So anyway, I thought I'd put that up. Let's go back to the daily. Okay, here we are. And you can see we had this huge rally. Great opportunity this morning to catch a few trades. And this is generally what will happen. You'll get a real steep channel like that, and the market is so strong, it's not going to reverse. It's just going to flatten out. And then we flatten out a third time. And generally by that third time to flatten out, that's generally going to be it. And we got to break a new high. And there's a two-legged correction here that was mostly sideways. But you can see there's two legs there. But this is mostly sideways, support here, resistance here. We failed out the top. We came down. We pushed through. Once we went through, look what we did. We made a perfect, this blue line is a measured move equal to the size of the range. And we made that perfect measured leg down, reversed. And what did we do? We made a perfect measured leg back up to the top and reversed up there. And now we're back inside the main range. It's perfect price action, really. But this got a little difficult in here because you've also got this two-tiered channel working down. We got a break, a couple legs to a new low, and then we reversed, and then you got this one working up. Then we leveled out again, and then we just kind of went flat really after that into 2 o'clock. But for the most part, this is a range, and we started out rather tight, and we've had a measured move out both sides now. So, but let's back out, go through the trades, and get through this day. Not as many trades this afternoon. This morning is what you want. It's pretty simple trading. It's really straightforward. It's a chance to make some easy money, really. You had to be a little patient. Your first trade didn't come to late 30. There's one right here. I marked it green, but you could go back and forth about it. It could easily be blue. But you just about have to mark it green, and I'll explain that in just a minute. And then, of course, we got several opportunities through here. A couple more up here as we're starting to, as this trend up is starting to wind down. So anyway, again, you can see the original channel working up, and there's actually a spike in channel within that went on higher. But let me back out a little more here, or zoom in a little more. But we're clearly working up. You get your first close outside. Notice there's a new swing high right there. First, and you get a first entry, then a second entry. It's a little bit congestive, but you would expect prices to try to make a new high on this. It is off the midline on the blue one as well. So there's reasons to like that one. Again, I marked it green, but it's real close. If this was a little better signal bar, I'd probably say go for it. But when this one ended as a doji, we're still making higher highs and higher lows on each of those bars. So they're not really going straight sideways, but it still looks a little congestive. So that's something to be concerned about. I marked it green all the same because it's been really pretty strong so far to that point. You can see we've been trending up for a while. And you can clearly see this strong channel here. It's the first real break. You could say we closed outside there, but that's not very convincing. You could adjust this a little bit, and everything still fits, and it's inside it. So I would look for still a retest of the high, and we may go higher because the blue one's still in play too. And of course we do. We just keep going higher. Unfortunately, we just came off the high. We came back to the midline. We went back to the high again, and we're working back. We're still bouncing off the midline, but I just don't see anything. There is a second entry here. Notice there's a new swing high, first entry, and then second entry. But that's definitely congestive, and you're definitely going long right into the highs, and you see what happens. It fails. It ends up going higher than would have worked, but sometimes it comes and stops you out before it goes higher. So it's just not worth risking it there. We need a reset for prices to come back to the key entry point. This is another one that you might have considered. The only problem was prices. Notice the new high, and you come back and you go higher, come back and you go higher. That's a hidden second entry, and it is off the EMA, and there is a trend line right there. On this spike, and notice prices spiked up and went into this channel back to the main trend line on the bigger channel. So that's right off that trend line. It confirms it. The only problem was it didn't break higher. Then you get an inside bar that's very bearish. So you just can't enter there. And you see how prices wanted to come back and retest that again. You still don't get a setup though. But if you're just patient, eventually you get a setup right here. And notice what this is. You've got a new swing low right here. I'm not sure if it actually goes lower or not. It looks like it might just be a double bottom. I just call that a double bottom, but that's like a reset right there. Actually, it is lower because, no, it's still not lower. I just call that a double bottom. But anyway, you can see we make that low right there. And then we try to go lower once, twice, and notice how we're bouncing right off. You got the EMA right there. You've got the blue trend line. You've got the yellow trend line. And you've got all of those and what looks like a failed second entry short. I like going long right there. Nice bullish signal bar on top of that. Quick, easy move, then it pulls back. And then you get a higher low right here. I marked this one green because you've got to go. It actually, I'm not sure which way this broke lower. I believe it broke lower if I remember right, and then went higher. And if it did, you could trade that as an engulfing bar. The problem with this one is if you go long above the signal bar, you're going long at the very high of the day, which is usually not a smart idea. But we've already seen the trend. It was very strong. It's off the key entry point with multiple reasons to like it. It's technically a second entry long as well if you entered on the engulfing bar, because you got a new high, first entry, then it turns down, then when it breaks above there, it's a second entry long. So You got that going for it too. You could almost argue for this to be blue. It's real close. I marked it green because I'm not sure about the engulfing bar, and that would have made a difference there. Runs on up, and we continue on up. I just don't see any other chance to really enter this. But you can see the corrections are very shallow. But I'd be waiting on uh, prices to hit up here on the top and come back. And notice we hit the top of the yellow, but that's also the midline of the larger blue channel. Just to back out and show it to you again. And it turns down, and you get a first entry. It comes down, you get a second entry. Well, that's the first break of the blue channel, the larger blue channel. So on a second entry, you got to figure we're probably going higher. We're going to at least try to make a new high here. And this has been a very strong trend. So on a second entry here, I like that trade. It's not too large of a bar. It's only 8 ticks. So relatively small risk. Quick, easy scalp, comes back, and then it makes a failed second entry short right here. So notice the new low, first entry, second entry. And so I like going along there, and you can see it kind of rockets up there. Once it broke higher, right here people weren't convinced, but once it went above that bar, people, the shorts had to exit. And then as soon as they all exit, it comes right back again. And you get another second entry here off the yellow key entry point. You can see we confirmed that long before. This actually, I started it right here, but it actually works back down into here. But either way, second entry long, nice bullish bar. We're working higher. There's actually a failed second entry short right here, and it is off that key entry point, but you haven't confirmed that yet. You'd want this to be off the EMA, so I don't think you want to go long there. Finally runs up, and you get a first entry and then a second entry right here when it breaks higher above this bar right here. And again, I think it breaks lower first and then goes up. I'm not sure which way it broke first. I marked it green for that reason. At this point, I wouldn't even have a problem going long above that bar at the very high of the day, because this is a clear channel. This whole thing has been very strong. I mean, this is what a strong trend looks like. And if you get a chance to enter at the key entry point, but notice you got your trend line, the midline in there. You pushed up, you actually pushed up through the midline and came back and tested it once right there, then came back second time, and then a third time. So that's a double test of that key entry point as well. Or I'm sorry, that midline. Plus it's off the trend line, which we've confirmed now too. So you got the trend line, the midline with multiple tests, and it's a second entry. So I like that trade. Runs on up. Where does it turn down? Right at the very high of the yellow channel. You try to go higher a few times. I didn't mark this short because this is such a strong trend. If you wanted to be super aggressive, you might take this trade because we're overdue to come back. Well, look how long we've been. I mean, this is at 850 down here, and here it is. Well, it's really not that long, but that's a long or a big move to stay away from the EMA. Plus, it's coming off the upper trend channel line. I just think you've got to skip that. It's congestive too. Notice you got 1, 2, 3, 4 bars. At least 2 of them have a small body or no body. I just think you got to miss that. Skip that. Wait for the long because it'll come in a minute. And then guess what? You come down, you get a first entry, then a second entry. And normally you'd want to wait for this to get back to the key entry point. But this market's been so strong, and you've got this coming down. You get a close outside, new low, and it is a second entry. So, I mean, you got a new swing high there. So first entry, second entry, and you got a little bit of congestion on a failed breakout. So we're probably going to snap back anyway, even if we're going to go lower. So I like just trying to ride that back to the EMA, and maybe it takes off again. And instead it takes off. I marked it green because of where it's at, but I'll be honest, I like that trade, and I'd probably take that trade most times if it's presented to me on a day like this so far. But again, we make a new low. And then you get a first entry short, second entry short. So when it breaks higher there, it fails. But also you got a new high, first entry, second entry. So that's not only a second entry long, it's a failed second entry short. And it's a nice bullish signal bar. I like going long there. And there's just enough. I think there's one extra tick there. So you would have gotten out of this one and then had an extra tick to spare, but you didn't have much before it turned back down. And you get another second entry long. Actually, I take that back. That's not a second entry because this is your double top first entry, and it was a second entry when it broke higher right there. But the signal bar would have been no good here, and it's getting close right there. So if you went long right there, you just got burned. But you can clearly see we're making lower highs each time. That's not a good sign. When you see that, but you see the strong support, the problem is you're running out of steam to the upside, but you're finding strong support across this line. Let me just put it on there so you can see the support across there. And you can clearly see that support right across there. So that's tempting. But notice that eye, this one's a little lower, this one's a little lower, and then this one turns out to be a little lower, and then you get the fail break lower and it bounces. So, and we did just come off the high. You probably didn't have this, you wouldn't have had this green channel yet because you couldn't draw it till you got these first two swings. There's nothing to really draw it off the highs with either. So you're just playing the yellow channel, and we're not back to it yet. We just came off the highs and we're not back to, we tried to go higher again, but we're probably going to come back to the low side before we go back higher. And then of course this runs up, turns down right off the midline of the yellow one, and then you work back and you get another long right here at the yellow trend line. And now this confirms the blue one because the yellow one's still a little bit steep too. This is probably more of a natural 45-degree angle here. Nice signal bar. And there is a hidden second entry. You can see it. We come down first entry. There's a little two-legged jog in there. And so that's usually the center of the pattern. You get the second leg down. I like going long right there. And we run up and then we just start working sideways. And again, I think it's too early to be looking for a short. Even though you get a second entry short here, you've still got this blue channel. And that's the first break of it. And notice there's a second entry long there too, but you can clearly see all that sideways action. And here's one with a very small body, but the real kicker to know to be careful here was when we came off the trend line, we didn't make it back up to here, nor did we get back to the midline on the yellow channel. Plus you had a little bit of a break here. So you'd want to be very careful going long right there. And as you can see, you would have got burned and then it would have gone right where you thought it would go. But we make it, you really got two legs down here. There's a leg down, a little two-legged jog, another leg down, and then we bounce. There's actually a second entry long here. Notice the low, first entry, second entry, and that one's tempting. But again, you got to be really careful there. There's actually a little channel here. You might have drawn it like this as well because it does fit. So, but I originally had it drawn like so. And we come down, we get a break and a new low. It's just two legs down is what it is with a little two-legged jog in the middle. So either way, if you drew it like this, which I don't have a problem drawing it like that, but it never really confirms that way either. You just get one touch, and when it comes back, it shoots right through. So it's just two-legged correction, second entry long. But if you're just patient, a few minutes later, you get a first entry short, second entry short. There's also a second entry long, but by second entry long standards, that bar won't qualify. But because it's also a first entry, second entry short that fails, that's going to act as a trap. And you get instant feedback on these, and you know it was a trap because look how it rockets up again. It trapped all the shorts, all these people trying to pick tops in here. There's a lot of people trying to look at all these big bearish bars that suddenly start coming in. That's top pickers. And they get run out. They got run out right here when that shot up. Probably a few more got ran out right here. Some more got ran out here. And then the final one, when that one shoots up, they all run out. And you can see it just keeps going. And that's what causes that. And as soon as all their stops are hit and you run out of them, then suddenly it's rocketing down the other way. But you got to break two legs up to a new high and you reverse. Perfect price action. So anyway, I like that one for the failed second entry short and the second entry long. If it had a better signal bar, but it wouldn't have fooled as many people probably because there's congestion there. That bearish bar probably fooled a lot of people and they jumped in. But then you're running down. There's actually a failed second entry long here. Notice the new high, first entry, second entry. And it fails, breaks higher and fails and turns down right off the EMA. The only problem, the reason I made this one green, it really looks like congestion here sideways and then one leg down. So it doesn't look like a place you'd really want to try to trade a reversal, but it is a spike in channel and it is right off that tight channel right there. So there's some reasons to like that one, but there's some reasons to be concerned. It's not a perfect reversal pattern. So it's a pretty good one in the end, but it just, there's better setups than that. But we run on down. Again, you can't go short and you don't want to enter in that. You bounce at the lows. You run up first entry, second entry. That's the first real close outside that trend channel. And it probably needed adjusting to right there. You can see that's the low side, and then you got a midline in there. And that's the first break, and you get a second entry short right at the midline, right at the EMA. New low, first entry, second entry. And so you got the midline, the EMA, and there's previous resistance. Notice you've tested that multiple times. That's like a triple test or a double test right there. Excuse me, that might have been loud. I bumped my microphone there. I apologize. So that's a second entry short. And what you had here was some more people trying to pick a bottom. And then when they find out they're wrong, boom, oops, didn't mean to do that. And it rockets down real quick. And when it shoots down some more, the ones that were hoping and praying that it was going to come back, give up. And you probably had some more longs pick up right in there. And you get your feet, you can see it rockets on down. And now we get a little bit of an overshoot. And so you would expect prices to go back to the trend line, and you can see they do. And even though this is a little higher, you could really look at this as sideways. And so first entry, second entry. It's not a very good signal bar. It probably closes in its lower 1/3 though, so it's good enough. And you're way away from the EMA. The problem is you still got this channel going up here, and it does confirm that trend line. There's your first two swings. So there's some reasons to like this one. I made it green just because you still got this channel working up and there's been no close outside. But the key is on a really strong move down, and we've had a pretty strong move so far, is that the bigger pattern is going to win out. So of course that's what happens here, and it drops like a rock. And we bounce right off the lows again. Now remember, we had an overshoot here, and a lot of times that leads to an overshoot, a break of the trend line, which comes right here. And notice you bounce first entry, and you get a second entry there, but that signal bar doesn't qualify. Then it tries to go higher, and again, you've got a little trend channel working up. You get a close outside, new high, and it turns down, but that signal bar doesn't qualify either. And we find support down here, make a little double bottom, then first entry, second entry, and you get this nice signal bar that confirms your trend line right up through here on a failed second entry short as well. I like going long right there. Runs back up. We find resistance up here. Now it looks like, hey, maybe we're in a channel. You do have this trend working up, and you get a break, move to a new high, a lower high here. There's actually a second entry short right there, but the signal bar is no good. And really, you're on the wrong side of the support resistance. When you've got a range or strong support and resistance, you expect the breakout to fail, but you got to be careful how you trade it too, especially if it makes a new high, because a lot of times it'll come back. This time, in this case, it went straight down, but sometimes you'll see people, they'll just sell that, and it'll come down a tick or two and hit the previous resistance. It acts as support and bounces and stops them out, and then they wonder why it stopped them out. When you get a new high like that on a breakout or a new low on a breakout, wait First of all, you need to be trading with the prevailing trend. And then secondly, you want to, if it's a new high or low, if it's a new high, wait on a lower high. If it's a new low, wait on a higher low. Just because you need more proof that prices are going to turn. And anyway, you get a second entry short right here, so you would expect another, that's a two-legged correction. So at a minimum, you'd look for another measured leg, which you notice we got a perfect measured leg before it went lower. But what it is, we got a range here and we broke out. Now we're headed to the low side. And what happens on the low side? We break out the low side. There's actually a reversal type pattern here, but it's below the EMA. It needs to be above. But you do get another swing low right here, and you go first entry, second entry, and then it breaks higher. That's what a good reversal looks like. It's above, and notice how we tested that EMA twice. The only problem with this, it's a little congestive. I marked it green because it does fit our criteria, but it's a little congestive. So you got one, maybe even count that one, 1, 2, 3, 4 bars stacked up. At that point, you don't really have the small body, but by the time your signal bar closed, there's no body, and so that makes it congestion. And notice we broke out the top and failed and turned down. I marked that one green just because we came off the low on a failed break lower, and we're back above the high. So you'd expect prices to come up here. They didn't, but that's what you would expect. So with that second entry long, notice the high, first entry, second entry. The reason it fails is because it's congestion. So you got to be real careful there. And of course, boom, it rockets down. And you get another leg down here. I don't see any way to really play this. There is a failed second entry long there, but that looks like one leg down and just one leg. There's too big a chance of another leg of correction before it goes lower. And we drop down here and you get this little channel. This is mostly sideways. There's still a little bit of an upward bias right there. It's a little small channel. Turns out to be the upper side of a bigger channel, but at this point you're just looking at that, and I don't see anything that you can trade with all that sideways action. There is a failed breakout, no setup. We come back down, we test the low, and guess what too? This blue line is the measured move of the range. So once we broke lower, that would be your target. Notice we overshot a little bit, came back and tested it, held, and then we went higher. And that's what you want to see before you try to buy down here. You want to see it prove this support level. It didn't prove it here, but it comes back and tests it a couple more times and goes higher, so it proves it. And I like this one just because there's a new low there, and you get a first entry, second entry, and it actually breaks lower and fails and turns and goes out the upper side. With that big leg there, you're probably going to get another leg. We're probably going to come back and test the breakout. We never have tested it. We tried here and couldn't. So at the very least, we're coming back, and notice how it tests it, and it tries to turn lower, but it can't and goes higher. That's what you want to see before you go long. So, or you want to see plenty of room to scalp out before you get back to that. You want to see, because this could act as support or resistance now that we're on the other side of it, and you don't know which one's going to win out yet. So you got to be careful going long right there, and you got to be careful going short from above that. But that turns out to be a nice trade. And this is another spike in channel. And there's actually a two-tiered channel working up here, I believe. But it looks, I think you were better to play the spike in channel. And of course, you're still got the range to worry about right here. And this is a good example of why you wait on a lower high, because that looks really tempting there, back at the range high, and plenty of room back to the EMA. And it would have worked, but it bounces. And then you get the breakout, and you got another new high. Again, it probably would have worked, but we're still continuing to go up. We don't see anything that says, hey, go short yet. We're still trending higher. And then finally, you get a chance to go long here. We're just working sideways. You get a leg down, a little two-legged correction, second leg down, and it hits that trend line, reverses, gives you a nice signal bar. I like going long there. I really thought it would take on off. It's quick, easy scalp, and you would have survived it even if you didn't scalp out, but you would have already scalped out, and you wouldn't have got a runner here, and then it backs up. Then it fails out the bottom of this little congestion and runs back to the top, and we're just really going sideways there again. It takes us into 2 o'clock. So Not a lot of opportunity in the afternoon from about really from a little after 11 on. You get one more decent trade. There's a couple of greens in there that you could have traded maybe, but this was the highlight of the morning right here. Wish you could do something like that every day. It makes it a whole lot easier. But we're 30 minutes into this, so I'm going to wrap it up and wrap up the week. We'll be back again to do it Monday. I'm done for today. I hope you had a good trading week. I hope you have a good day tomorrow. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.